Hi, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. This one is also a special one because this has been requested so many times in the comments. It's all about how we can sync SharePoint list item attachments between two different SharePoint lists. So for example, if we have like a parent list and then we have like a child list, and if an attachment with or an item with an attachment is created in the parent list, then create that item with the attachment in the child list. And if something changes in the parent list, then reflect that change, so which means updating the child item list. But enough with the theory, let's see how we can do that in practice. But first, make sure to give the thumbs up if you like the video at the end, and that you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, have fun. So what we can see here is that I have already created two SharePoint lists. So these are called invoices parent and invoices child, and we have here in the parent list the title, which is the standard column, and then I added here like employee, reason, date of purchase, amount, and attachments. And I also place here the ID just to see if this ID also lands in the child list ID, because we need that to find that item. In this case, we are showing how you can manage, for example, invoices. No? So the employee or whoever will add an invoice here in this parent list, and then we want that to be reflected somewhere. Okay, and when also we have the invoices child, which is a copy of that first list. The only difference here is that we have this parent ID, because we need, when we create a new item in the parent list and we save it in the invoices child list, then we want that ID to be saved as well, so that we can find it if we want to do any updates. Let's take a look now how we can build the Power Automate workflow. So the workflow will be an automated cloud flow, because we want to be triggered every time that something changes in the parent list. And let's call this workflow sync list item and attachment. And we need to have this when an item is created or modified trigger. Let's click create. Okay, so let's select the site address from where we are starting, and that is our parent invoices or invoices parent list. And next we want to do a get items in the child list, because we want to see if the item that we just created or modified with that ID exists in the child list. And for that reason, let me select this real quick, invoices child. For that reason, we need to filter this query where we say that the parent ID is equals the ID from the when an item is created or modified response, not the list item ID, because we have here in the child list this parent ID. So when we create an item in the parent ID in the parent list, we want to save its ID here so that we can then find it. Okay, so let's rename this real quick. Let's say it's called get items from child list, so that we can distinguish it a bit better. And next I want to save this ID that we find here eventually in a compose action, because in the update steps we need this ID, and if I use it as a dynamic value from this get items from child list action, then it's going to create an apply to each loop. But I know that we find only, or we should find only one item. That's why I don't want to have unnecessary apply to each loops in my workflow. So I'm going to create here a new compose, and this is going to be called, well, let's rename it real quick, compose child list item ID. And here I have created the expression already for you, so that you can see it a bit better. From the outputs from get items from child list, this one here, I go then into the body value section, and I grab the first item, which is number 0, because we count 0, 1, 2, 3. And from that I want its ID. So let's copy this and paste it in here in the expressions, click OK, and then we have it there. So later we will see that here in our compose the ID of that item will be saved. Okay, so next I want to use a condition, because after getting the items from the child list, I want to see if that length of that response, get items from child list value, body value, is equals to 0. So if it's equals to 0, then it means that that item does not exist. So we need to go and create that item into that list and its attachments as well from the parent list. If not, then we need to update it. Okay, so let's do the yes path first. So let's add here a new action called create item. Let's search for the SharePoint site address. This will now populate my fields. And all this information is coming then from my get items. It's coming then from my when an item is created or modified. So I want the title. Let's search here title. When an item is created or modified. Then I have here the parent ID, which is the ID from that item that was just created. Then the employee. This is a people picker. So I'm going to enter a custom value and I'm searching for employee. We have this employee claims here, which is the one required. And keep in mind, coming from the trigger, from the parent list. The reason as well, the date of purchase, the amount as well. Okay, so in this step, we just created the item, but the attachments are not there yet. So now we need to grab the attachments from that parent list item that was just created or updated and place them into this child list item. So next we are going to search for the action called get attachment. So we will search for our site address again, and then we need the ID from that parent, from that item that was created when item is created and modified. So now we have the attachments, but we are not done yet because then we need the attachment contents. So let's create here another action called get attachment content. There it is. Again, site address, list name, invoices parent, the ID of that list item is again the same one from that parent. And now it's searching for the file identifier. So the file identifier is coming from that get attachments action step. Now that's why we need to do it, because otherwise we cannot see the file identifier for the attachment. So as you can imagine, this is going to create now an apply to each loop, because as it should, we might have also more than one attachment, as we will see later on in the demo. Okay, so now we have the attachment content, but we still have not created it in that item. No, we just grabbed it from the parent item. We need now to go and create these attachments in that child item or child list item. So let's search here for the add attachment action. There it is. So now we need to be careful because the site address is the same, but the list name is not. So we need to go now into the invoices child and to find that ID. And that ID is from the create item, because we create the item here, we create the item in the child list, and its ID, which comes back, is the one we need to add the items, to add the attachments. So from the create item, we grab the ID. So the file name is from the get attachments display name. We did here this get attachments. We receive the display names of those attachments. That's the file name. It also has the ending, so we don't need to take care of anything else. And the file content is coming from get attachment content. So the file contents come from this action and the display names come from this action. So now we need to take care also if the item exists, because if the item exists in the child list, then we not only need to update the data, so the column, the values, but we also need to update the attachments. The problem is if you have two attachments in the parent list and those have been already reflected in the child list, and you decide to remove one from the parent list and you want that to be reflected in that in the child list, then it is a bit difficult. So what I did here, or what we are going to do, is that I remove all the attachments from that child list and then I add back every attachment that comes from the parent list. So if there were two and now there's one, that's how I remove that from everything from the child list item, and then I just add that one which is remaining from the parent list. If that's a new one on top, let's say now we have three, I delete the two that were reflected already in the child list and then I just add the 3. I found that as the easiest way to handle this, and if you know any better way, let me know in the comments. Okay, so let's cover that path as well. If the length is not equal to 0, which means we have found an item, we then want to go on and update that item first. So let's search for update item. Let's place the site address again and list name, and the update item is that outputs that we found, what we created. No? So we compose these outputs to have that item ID from a child list, and we are going to use it here so that we don't have an apply to each loop here. So let's place that, and let's update here the title, and that is all going to be updated from the parent list. So let's take that information from the trigger response. No? So title, okay, so now we updated, or at least with this step, we are going to update the data of that list, no? But we still have not updated the attachments. But as I said, because we are going to delete everything in the child list attachment from that item, we need to get the attachments from that parent list item again, so that we have them in this side of the path. Now we cannot communicate with this part of the path. That's why we need to do it here again. Let's do a get attachments, and let's add that site address again, and the ID is from when the item is created or modified. Okay, so now we have the attachments again. Now let's rename this to get attachments parent list item 2. So to be able to delete the attachments from that child list item, we need to grab the attachments from that item as well. So we need to do again and get attachments, but this time we are going to get attachments from the child item. Site and the list name. Now we go to the invoices child, and the ID is coming from that compose that we created. That's why we have it here, so that we don't have an apply to each loop again. So okay, let's rename this real quick to get attachments from child list item. So now we have the attachments from the parent, we have the attachment from the child. Now we need to delete those from the child so that we can add all the changes that happen to those attachments from the parent into the child again. So we need to do a delete attachment. So let's select the site address, the list name. So the ID can be from the update item. Now we have this update item here at the top. Let's rename this real quick to update child list item. So now we have this ID here from that update child list item, and then the file identifier will come from get attachments from child list item, and that's this one here. So this will create, of course, an apply to each loop, because that child item might already have 2, 3 or more attachments, so we need to make sure that we delete all of them. And this apply to each here will be apply to each delete all attachments from child list item. So now we need to add another action where we grab the attachment content, no, the second one, from the parent list. Let's rename this from parent list item, because we need that as, again, we have the same problem. We cannot talk with this path, with this side of the path. So we need to do that again. So the list name is now the invoice parent, and the parent ID is when item is created or modified, and the file identifier will be coming from this get attachment from parent list item 2. Get attachments, search for ID. So get attachment from parent list item 2. Let's go through this again. Maybe it's a bit complicated. So we updated the data in that child list item. We get the attachments from the parent again. This is for this right side of the condition. Don't confuse it with the left path. So we get the attachments from the parent, we get the attachments from the child, we delete all the attachments from the child, and then we get the attachment content from all the attachments in the parent list item. Yeah, that's why we get here another apply to each, and here this will be our apply to each to create all attachments in child list item. And we get the content, and now we need to create the attachment in the child list again, or child list item. So let's do another. This will be in that loop, add attachment, and the site address, the list name, invoice is child. The ID of that child item is coming from when update child list item, because we have it, we updated it already for the data. So the file name will be the display name from get attachments from parent list item 2. So we grab those attachments from here, and then the display name of those attachments will be used here. We are already in apply to each loop, so for each of those we are already covered. And the file content will become from get attachment content. So I think that's all. Let's save it real quick and test it out. Saving, let's click test, and we'll do a manual test. Jump to our SharePoint page here, SharePoint list, and we have this invoice parent. Let's create a new one. Invoice 1, employee myself, reason dinner with customer, date of purchase, doesn't matter, 1st November, amount 256, and let's add one attachment, demo receipt, and another one, and click save. Our flow is now running. It will go the yes path because that child list is empty, and it will create an item, get attachments, apply to each for content and attachment. And let's take a look. We have in the child list, let's refresh it, here our parent ID, all the information that I just entered, and if we double click it, we see here the two attachments. Let's test this one more time. In this case we are going to say again manual, and in this case we are editing this invoice here. So let's open it, edit all. I'm going to remove one, so I'm now only leaving this 021.pdf attachment, and I'm going to change the date to be the 3rd of November, and the amount will be 355. Click save, and let's see if our workflow will run successfully. Now it should go on the right side of the path, and it runs successfully. So what it should have done now is, let's go to the child, refresh, and we have here the new data, which is the 3rd, 355, and let's check it out. We have now only this one attachment. And that's how you can sync not only the data, the information between two SharePoint lists, but also the attachments. I hope you liked it. If you did so, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and that you subscribe to the channel. That will help me and the channel grow. And thanks for watching. Hope you had fun, and see you in the next video.